Good afternoon, and for any Star Wars fans out there, may the Force be with you. I couldn't resist that. My name's Trevor Doornbos. I'm going to be your host for this webinar. We'll be going through the introduction, which is part of what we're doing now. I'm going to give you a quick overview and background on mission control, and then a walkthrough solution demonstration. If you've seen the chat or the Q&A windows on your Zoom session, please feel free to use those through the session. Where we can, I'm happy to stop or take those and answer those at the end of the session. My name is Trevor Doornbos. As I said, I'm a sales director and also mission control specialist at Aprica Business Solutions. I'm based here in Sydney, Australia. We're headquartered in Australia. A lot of our team is in the US, but certainly the team is growing also here in Australia. I've been in the Salesforce ecosystem coming up to 8 years, a couple of years at Aprica, and I've had a background in project management for many, many years. A little bit about performance of mission control. So we listed last year, beginning of last year, 21, on G2, previously known as G2 Crowd, and very pleased at some of the results there. Not only did we win many sort of accolades on that, is we found out that what our customers really think of mission control. So probably one of the highest net promoter scores in the industry, when the average is around the 50s, and certainly a lot of happy customers. In the words of our CEO, Colin Johnson, we don't measure our attrition rate because it's so low, and that's unusual, certainly in the software and the SaaS industry. Bit of a breakdown of mission control clients. We've been on the Salesforce App Exchange 10 years in July, so we're celebrating a big milestone there, 10 years. Also, we just went over 10,000 active mission control users, and we've got mission control users, customers right across the globe, 25 plus countries, and across a variety of industries. So mission control, it's professional services automation, full-fledged professional services automation. So project management, resource management, all the aspects in between. And it covers a gamut of industries, not just professional services. If I listen to what our customers say, I met with Chris Litton last year when I was over in New Zealand, kind of close to my heart. I grew up in New Zealand when I was a kid, and their office is actually about 5 or 10 minutes from where I did grow up. And we found out Chris's view on mission control from a Salesforce user group in Wellington back in 2019 when they first started using mission control. And he's since told us a bit more last year. They did some internal stats. So in year one, they were able to centralize everything from spreadsheets on everyone's computers into mission control and save 4 days per project manager of administration. So it was a massive win for them. And they did some research internally last year and found they've actually got found a 30% increase in productivity through using mission control with no extra spend, with no extra resources thrown in. So a great win. If you go into G2, you'll see a lot of customer reviews. We certainly ask a lot of our customers to go and review us. The feedback's been pretty good to date, and I expect it will be. We're built on Salesforce. So mission control is a natively built Salesforce application. So when you download it into your Salesforce org from Salesforce App Exchange, it's got full-fledged capability. So it is an out-of-the-box solution. Kind of hard to believe for all the capability it does pack. It packs a lot of punch with professional services automation, but all the capability I'm going to show you and what you may see in our recordings, it's all there available within, as soon as you install it. Obviously being built on Salesforce, even though we are a managed package, custom objects added to your Salesforce org, there's a lot of capability you can leverage with that. Obviously creating your own custom fields, processes, whatever you need to, and you're leveraging existing capability in Salesforce, so chatter available all the way through the system. Really, really powerful. Licensing, you will need a Salesforce license to access mission control. We're what's called an ISV force, application, which means we don't ship Salesforce OEM with our product. Massive advantage to that is if you've already got Salesforce licenses, you're not paying for another platform license that someone doesn't actually need. And we support all levels of Salesforce licenses. Obviously, the license they have from Salesforce will determine what they can see in Salesforce. We've got clients who use for their users just platform licenses because all their end users need to see are the mission control objects. But obviously, if you need to see things such as Sales Cloud objects, accounts, opportunities, what have you, you will need a license that gives you accessibility into that. We support experience sites. They used to be known as communities. Obviously, for whatever use that Salesforce allows you to give those. We ship with, I think it's about a dozen Salesforce permission sets, and you can configure capability, accessibility for your end users right down to the field set level, not just what they can see, but what they can update as well. What's in mission control? And it's a heck of a lot. I know there's at least one person on the call that knows me from a previous life where I worked for a competitive solution, and will probably take me to task. So looking forward to some questions on the chat. So feel free to jump into the chat or on the Q&A. Happy to answer any questions there. What's in mission control? Let's break it down into the core areas. So when you care about resource management, an end user, someone who's going to be assigned a piece of work, I should say, in mission control is what's known as a role. And against those roles, you can put their cost rates, whether it's their specific cost rate, a loaded cost rate, an average cost rate, their billing rate. So when you're actually picking an individual person, you can say, well, what are they going to be charged at? But there's other ways of doing it at the project level, which we'll cover off. You can group people in teams, assign them into multiple teams. For example, I'm in the Australia team, I'm in the internal employees team, I could be in the New South Wales team. So any way you need to slice and dice your resources to allocate them, report on them. Building out a skills matrix, capabilities right down to proficiency levels, certifications, what have you, and being able to assign resources based on capacity as well as capability, and being able to measure that. So not just estimates versus actuals, but what's the utilization from a billable and an allocation perspective. We've also included for holiday management and mission control. Creating a project, I'm going to be showing creating a project from a Salesforce opportunity. So out of the box capability, we also have a project request object. So if you want to create a project from any other standard or even custom Salesforce object, the project request object can do that. And you can use the milestone loader, you can clone projects, much as when I used to manage projects in Microsoft Project, I'd find another one that I'd used before and copy it, but also creating templates as well. So you can have a repeatable and rigid process where you need it. The ways you want to manage your projects can vary dramatically. I come from a waterfall delivery aspect, and that'll be the example I show you in the demo. You might have an agile approach where you've got backlog, priority, backlog, sprints. You can manage it through that process as well. A lot of the capability is where I guess we differentiate with a lot of our core competitors is when you're in a project, you don't have to choose what sort of view the project's going to have. You can access all the views from the same data. So for example, I'll be showing you an overview, a Gantt chart, a Kanban view, a list type view, and we're working through that. Time tracking, last count out of the box, there's about 7 different places within the solution you can log time, including the standalone timesheet. The reason for that is if you're working in one aspect, why would you go into another part of the system? That's part of the value, is not having to jump between screens to do the same thing, although I will be doing that during the demo. Financials, full project financials, tracking the P&L on a project, also being able to do billing, manage that, tracking your time, as I said, estimates versus actuals, all that side of things. If you need to track purchase orders, expenses, expense uplifts, all those sorts of things. Not going to be showing you all of this, but the capability is certainly in there. Won't have time this session to go through program management. Program management is pretty much the way that we manage the release cycle of mission control. We have 3 releases a year. Our February release was kind of huge. We brought out Resource Planner, which is almost a product in itself, and I'll touch on that a little in this demo. But we actually use Mission Control to build out the requirements, the user stories, and then put them into the backlog, priority backlog, and sprint cycle. That's a whole session itself. You can find that on our recorded webinars on our Mission Control website. So aprika.com/Mission Control. And I'll show a couple of those links at the end of the session. Collaboration, we're built on Salesforce, so of course you're going to be leveraging chatter, all levels within a project, whether it's at the project level, milestone, action level, or if you're using experience sites, communities, maybe you have chatter between your partners, your clients on the community who are working on collaboration with a project. Out of the box PDF status report, which I'll be showing, as well as a force.com page, a read-only page. You can share a URL link out to your clients so they can actually have a read-only access to the information on their projects. And I'll be going through some of the productivity tools. So a lot to cover. I'm probably going to do it in about 30 minutes. It's going to be a bit of a whistle-stop tour, so hold on to your hats. I'll be starting off in dashboards and some sort of management type views, including the Gantt chart, standalone Gantt chart, utilization. And then what we'll do is we'll create a project. I'll create a project from an opportunity. I'll allocate someone to that piece of work based on capability and availability, and then show some of the ways they might actually work on that from a consultant perspective. One example is the whiteboard. We'll manage some actions in the Gantt chart, and I'll take you through billing, and then we'll deep dive into a project along with the scheduler and the standalone timesheet. If my voice runs out, I apologize. I've been talking and demoing for at least 2 to 3 hours today. So what does Mission Control look like? So I've set up Mission Control in a Salesforce org. When you're in Salesforce, for those who are moderately familiar, hopefully everyone here, some people know, I can see on the call, know a lot more about Salesforce than I do. I can see obviously my apps, my Sales Cloud, Service Cloud, Marketing Cloud. I've got Mission Control and then Mission Control Community. Then what I've done for my setup is I've chosen, what tabs I want to see. Obviously you can mix and match depending on your privileges, your permissions. And I'm going to go through a number of these tabs at the top. So like I said, there's a lot to show. It's almost like a full-fledged demo, but it's going to be more of a taste. So I might start my journey with Mission Control when I first install it in the console. The console is a bunch of, if you like, a collection of wizards, very unlike Harry Potter, but ways you can actually do simple things like creating a project and building out your milestones, creating your actions, assigning roles, placeholder roles, estimates for estimated hours, what have you. I could also do that from pretty much a lot of places. I could create a new project from the new project drop-down tab while I'm inside the project list view. Copying a project, but just when I used to have Microsoft Project, I might say, let's just find one used before. I might use one of my templates, for example. I'll be talking very briefly about roles, grouping into teams. I'll be showing you some skill set. We have full holiday management built into Mission Control, including holiday accruals. I think that was our September release that was brought in. So you could actually accrue your annual leave, other types of leave, and then have that managed within Mission Control if you don't have that in your HR system already. Other tabs here, so I'll be going through the Kanban Whiteboard. I'll probably touch on the risk and issue log and the action pad. Certainly, there's one of those 7 places you can log time expenses. If you've got eagle eyes, you may have seen at the bottom, there's a persistent menu where I can also do a lot of these things. There's also a trackpad at the side. So depending on what permissions you've assigned, you could actually leverage the feed. So depending on where you are in the solution, I can see the chatter feed on that aspect. So at this level, I can see the whole level. I can see what's some things I've been working on in the background, any activities. I can see the timeline there as you'd expect. And then I could log time, expenses, add actions, and add risks, and have a sip of water before my voice runs out. So a lot of wizards in the console management pad, and for the, and we'll be touching through some of these. And in the control pad, this is where your Mission Control administrator, could be a Salesforce administrator. This is where they set some of the settings within Mission Control. I would like to invite you to download Mission Control to Salesforce org, come into the console and create some sample data. So great little function there. If you want to set up and play around with Mission Control and see if you can break it, you can do this, create some sample data so you don't need to build it out and then maybe blow it away later. Sounds terrible, I know. Okay, so where might you start your journey? Let's say you start your day, you want to get an idea of how your business is running. So maybe I've got my manager hat on and I'm looking at my Salesforce dashboard. So all the metrics I've got collated in this dashboard come from Mission Control. So I've just grouped them in Salesforce reports. We can see the reports here. Excuse me, I've chosen the chart I'm going to present and hey presto, I've got a nice report. I've got a few other example ones I've created. People might say, what about backlog? What about resourcing? That's there too. So because we're on Salesforce, I'm on a dashboard, I'm on a report. I'm going to drill through to the actual report, filtered by my projects that are over budget. And I want to see why. I can see my Labs Roadshow, right? And I can dig straight into that. So I'm going to come back to this project. I've got everything switched on in Mission Control. You can choose to switch on only what you need your end users to see. And choose those views, very configurable. You can change a lot of the page layouts and the detail. And I can see straight away here, I've got my first milestone roll up of all the actions. So the structure of Mission Control in a project is from the project layer, we have milestones, actions, and checklists. So when you think of phases, tasks, and subtasks, we refer to those as milestones. Under those milestones, you can have a number of actions, and under the actions, you might have some checklist items. I can assign an action owner, and I can have any number of collaborators on that. So if you want multiple people working on it, I can do it here. I can see from my hours summary, the right-hand number is my estimated, what I thought I was going to use for the project, and on the left is what's come from approved timesheets or just timesheets. So we use 4 hours out of the 4, we use 135 out of the 160, and for some reason it took 80 hours when we only allowed 10 for the client approval. So this rolls up into a whole lot of metrics. Under the insights, it feeds up into the cost performance, and it also feeds up into the schedule performance. So cost performance is a metric we measure whereby if this is 1, it means the estimated hours are exactly what we've used. If I start using more than my estimated hours, so the actuals are higher than the estimated, then my cost performance is actually going to fall below 1. And I've got some thresholds where it goes amber to red. Similarly with the schedule, when we start to run behind, 1 is good, green, below 1 means we're running behind. So as a project manager, straight away, I can see where my problems are. All the metrics I'm capturing in the project, I can see the budget with what I'm charging my customer overall. I can look at the billable value, what's remaining. I can look at the hours, both billable and non-billable. You can determine that at the project as well. A question from Nick, is it possible to assign an hours budget to a milestone or only per action? We assign the hours at the action and it rolls up automatically to the milestone. Great question, keep them coming. The P&L summary. So the P&L is pretty much our margin. What's our cost? And what do we actually, answered that live. I hope that answered the question, Nick. And then invoicing as well. So I'll be showing that now. Let me come back to that. Other things I might care about as a manager, maybe I'm managing multiple projects and I love Gantt Chart. So I might jump into the standalone Gantt Chart where I've filtered that at the top left here to show the key projects I'm looking at. And at a high level, I can track how they're progressing. It's my Labs Roadshow we were just looking at. So maybe I can drill down to that and see where we're up to. Okay, we did the client approval. I can see here there's the design UI. These are prioritized, a high priority, medium, normal or low. That's with the color code. And I can see under design wireframes, under design UI, I've got a placeholder role and a number of collaborators. So I need to assign someone to the action. I can see Andrea's working on design wireframes and I've got Colin working on her with that as a collaborator. There's a number of things we can do at the Gantt chart level, and I'll do that when we get through to our demo shortly. But it's a full capability drag and drop, so I can certainly move things around. I can add checklist items under here. I can edit and update. So I might live in the Gantt chart and do a lot of the things in here. I might even want to include being able to log time in here, which is one of the 7 places you could do it. Tracking utilization. So at a role level, I'm going to use Andrea, one of my favorite resources. So I've done the role utilization report by role. I can do it by team and group it. I've just, for Andrea, how did she go in March this year? And I'm breaking that down by weekly. And I can see the breakdown of her time. I can see how she performs. So her total hours was more than she needed to work, and her billable hours was actually above. If I then break that down, what I can see here is, excuse me, done week by week for that period. How many hours a week does Andrea work? Does she work a 40-hour week? Does she work a 32-hour week or something different? And you can also determine what days she works as well. That's a reasonably new capability. Then of those hours, what is her billable target? Her billable target is 80% of the available hours she's got in available. So if there's a public holiday, if she's taken annual leave, that'll take off her hours per week and then leave the available hours. So I can see here across her hours she worked. She didn't work the full hours here on this week, but we know that she worked a lot more, so it balances out. And I can see a billable performance. Overall, she's worked more hours in the month than her allocation, and her billable performance is up, and we can roll that up. Brand new functionality is the resource planner. This came in our February release, almost a product in itself, so very ambitious from the team. And won't have time to go into detail. If you go to our release notes section on mission control, you can actually see a bit more detail on this. I've put in some forecasts at a project level. You can do that in opportunity project level. So I want to see, look, what's my capacity to deliver? So if I say, look, let's just see what my people are doing for this month, I can see, wow, I've got all this capacity. Some people are pretty much close to that, but others have got not very much at all, and it's based on their availability and capacity to deliver. If I sort of add, have a look at forecast individually, I can see that too. That should make up, and then if I see how does that both look if we close those deals, you might be doing this more likely for future deals. I can see, well, that's a lot better, but we're still not at capacity. So I probably need to be giving my salespeople a bit of a G up to get working a bit harder. If I want to break that into the planner view by individual, I can change it by, I'm looking by weeks for the next 4 weeks. I'm going to look at the hourly capacity. So this view is a little bit different. That's probably, that's if I've got both in there. Let's just have a look what people are actually working on. There you go. So, excuse me. So if I have a look here, I can see everyone's capacity to deliver, how many hours they've got allocated. I can see, this week it's been pretty light on for Andrea, and then it starts picking up and then it gets a bit busier. I can see if I drop down from here, how much of that is billable, non-billable. I can see she's got a holiday this week. Sorry, that's next week. And I can see what projects he's working on. Then also if that's billable, non-billable, I can click through to that project if I want to drill through to a lower level. Resource planner, have a look at the release video, lots of great information. Okay, let's get into a bit of a flow. So let's create a project very quickly. I'm in a Salesforce opportunity, very standard page layout. I've installed mission control and added a section to the page layout and these 4 fields, which is all you need to have that automation built in. I've chosen one of my methods to generate a project, which is the opportunity method. There's a couple of other methods, the products, etc. And I've created a template. So this has got all the information I need. It's got all the structure that I want to use for this client. So part of scoping that out, I could manually edit and tick this box. I've got a little process builder just to show the capability. This is the non-standard part of my demo. Doesn't come with a process builder. You might have to do that, or I think flows is the new way of doing things. That will run in the background. That'll take about 2 or 3 seconds. We've just introduced that because some of our clients had much larger projects and they didn't want to wait for them to generate. If I just hit refresh, then I will see in my related list, I've got my demo project. So obviously it's tied into the account ACE and into the opportunity. open up my project, same structure as, or similar structure as I saw before. I've chosen to come into the overview. If I go to my insights, I can see my CPI and SPI. I've done nothing yet, but I can see what my budgets are, how many hours I've got allowed, what my P&L would look like, and where I am from project budget, from invoicing capability. If I look at this and think, okay, I'm going to cheat a little. I just want to get someone working on this super quickly. I could go into the resource scheduler to see availability and capability. I've already had a look at that, and I'll show that time allowing. And I just want to get someone on this requirements meeting. So I've got an action, I've got a placeholder for consultant, a number of checklist items for them to work through, warning that it should have started today, May the 4th, be with you. And I'm going to use the resource assignment wizard. So I could do this drag and drop from within the scheduler. I'm going to do it here. I could just choose the individual I want. It's probably going to be Andrea. Or I'd say, well, actually, I'm going to check across my consulting team. I want someone who's got configuration. Maybe even, I could choose proficiency level. Someone who's, 1 could be junior, 5 could be senior. Default to my last search. And it's got all the details at the right, and I can show my availability. So pretty good for this week. There's not a lot of work on this week. Obviously we got really busy at the end of the month and we forgot to get a whole lot of work done here. No availability there for Monday. If I scroll over to next week, I can see Andrew's also got Monday off. And if I draw down, I can see that she's actually got that as a holiday, probably annual leave. So I'm just going to assign Andrea to that. Delete that little bug I've got in my system. And she's got 8 hours. Now, I might want to ride shotgun, say she might want a contributor. I just want to see how she's working because I love her discovery sessions, and I'm going to put that in as non-billable time. So once that happens, you could actually have an action notification, an email that goes out. You can also share a daily digest. And then Andrea is allocated to that project. So a couple of ways, Andrea. So taking off my project manager hat, putting on my consultant hat. And if I just hit refresh here, and let's just make sure we're looking at Andrea's view of the world. I'm just going to say, look, only show me where Andrea is the action owner. So she might come into a view and say, these are all the things I've got to work on. And there's my demo project. If she's got access, she could get a lot more detail. She can see she's allocated, who's working what. I'm there for 2 hours non-billable. She could log time here, one of the 7 places, raise an issue, mark off the checklist items. Did I say log time? And if she needed more detail, she could pop out here and maybe jump onto Chatter if she needs to chat to someone on the team and share other information. That's one of the key views, and you can sort by columns. It's really powerful. You might say, what have I got on for this week? And you can work through that list. Another view is the whiteboard. So I'm probably more of a visual person, so I'd go with a Kanban view more often than not. So I'm looking at this from Andrew's view. So again, let's just update that. I'm going to start with priority, and I'm just going to filter that because there's a lot of information in here. Say, let's just show what's assigned to start this week. So make sure I don't miss anything. Okay, that breaks it down a lot better. So I can see what's high priority. Okay, we've got our requirements meeting. So this is the action card. It's showing the project, the milestone, the action, and action number. Obviously, you've got more than one action across projects with the same name. And the fields I've chosen to display start date, end date, number of hours, number of checklist items, and the status. Over at my right-hand side, I've got the ability to change this. So maybe there's other things I care about. You use some of our standard fields or your custom fields, and also what you're actually showing on the card. So I want to look at this by a status. So I can see it's in plan stage. So I can kick off a bit of automation. I'll move it to in progress. So I know that I'm working on it, sort of like your inbox, your desktop, pending folder, and your outbox. It also updated the project to let the project manager know that you've actually started, and also show the milestone and the action in progress. Again, could chatter. We could raise an issue, and the issue manager log time. Key thing Andrea wants to do here, I know we're very short of time for this demo, is she wants to short, she establishes requirements for the customer, agree what's going in the build, and then she'll document that. And then perhaps she logs time from here. She could also do it in a standalone timesheet. And excuse me, she might want to categorize a time. This is a pick list, which you can determine what that's going to be. She did 8 hours, and she might just mark that as complete. Could have used the time tracker, like a stopwatch timer, start and stop through. And she could have just logged the hours and dragged that action to the complete column. So I'm just going to log that time because I've said complete. Bit of auto magic will happen, and it'll, once that's entered, we'll go into the complete column. There you go. So you can slice and dice this. You might have noticed some figures across the top. You can choose, what you're actually showing in those totals across the columns. And again, the column headings are pick list fields from the action object, the action record. You could potentially even put your own pick list items in there. Let me take off my consultant hat because we're short on time. Let me put back on my project manager hat, and let me have a look at a few things that happen. So I'm just going to hit refresh, and I've got a setting in my system in this project that when I complete all the actions under a milestone, I want to auto complete the milestone. Great. Well, that's worked. I've got another little setting. This is a fixed price billing milestone project. I'd set the budget for this milestone at 2,000. I had a checkbox on my milestone to say when this milestone completes, generate an invoice for that amount. So if I go to my billing tab, so maybe if I want to do the billing and do the invoicing out of mission control, I could do that. Even if I'm invoicing out of another system, this is quite powerful to be able to show that information to the project manager so they can see what's happening. I've got my billing event based on the completion of the requirements milestone, that amount. It's got tax applicable. I'm using GST, so I've added $200. If I go into that billing event, digging right under the covers here, I can see a little bit more information. If the demo gods have been kind to me today, I've caught the cycle updates every few minutes. I've got an invoice here using our standard template. If you're using this, kind of handy when you send it to the customer and they ask you a question, you're not having to go to finance or get your finance manager to check and zero. I can see all the financial information on the billing event. And when that's marked as paid, I can come in here and mark that as paid. So I'm sure there's some questions about that. Why would I go to this level of detail? And quite often people say, oh, but what if I'm using a finance system and I want to build an integration? What if I want to integrate into Xero? Great question. That's what we do. So what you could do is actually have an integration app. There's several apps out there that actually pushes the detail from this billing event to the right ledger code in your finance system. And then when it's marked as paid, bring it back. But that is another app you'd probably use from App Exchange. Why is that useful? Again, if I'm the project manager, I can look at the billing. I can see I've sent an invoice. I can see the invoice has been paid. So it gives me that central information, which is really useful. If I go to my Insights tab I showed you earlier on the other project, I can see this billing information there too. So it's giving me that dashboard of the financial health and progress health of my project. Time logs, and we had a time in there. I mean, you can, the burn down, obviously we haven't burnt much time in our project yet, but you can see what the burn down rate should be. We can certainly track expenses, that side of things. But that's pretty much the end-to-end process. So from an opportunity, creating a project, assigning a resource to it, that resource working on the project, login time, marking that action complete, completing the milestone, generating the billing event, and then pushing that into your finance system and getting that payment back. That in itself is an amazing sort of process. There's many companies that use multiple systems to achieve that. We're centralizing that all in Mission Control in your Salesforce system. I talked about the scheduler earlier, so I'm going to touch on that really briefly. So the resource scheduler is where you could actually, and I've got this filtered just to show my internal consultants plus the placeholder roles. And I've chosen the hours total, what I like to call a heat map. So from this, I can see a lot of green here for Andrea, which means green is she's available. nothing on Monday, because I know she's got time off. And then where is she sitting? Now she works 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week. So it's at amber because she's coming close to her threshold. Where you hit the threshold, where you go above it, it's going to register red. So we can see on Friday, Carrie's got 11 hours. Maybe if I go to the action view, I can see, well, what has Carrie got in her plate? Maybe what I'd like to do, she's got 8 hours and 3 hours. You know what? I'm going to give that client approval work. I've had a chat to Andrea, and I'm going to assign that to it. If I do that, before I commit that, right, that's brought Andrea down to 8 hours and 3. So I can start dragging and dropping. I've also got some work across the top here, things that I probably need to be assigning to other people. I hadn't assigned anyone to the implementation or other parts of the project. And I can work through that. Obviously, I can do this from multiple places. I can look at it from the project view, from the resource scheduler view. What I find extremely useful is looking at that capacity, and maybe looking at, and we had that in the resource planner as well now since February, but I can look at what people are working on. I can filter by the types of projects, the categories, what have you, and see we're falling off the edge of a cliff come July. We need to get some more projects going. What does a standalone timesheet look like? Here's an example of a standalone timesheet where I've been allocated to a couple of projects. So I'm on the Ace Labs Roadshow. I've got some time scheduled over a period, and it's just spread that over and suggested maybe I'm working 1.6 hours. If I needed to add some additional time, as soon as I learn to type, I might go, look, I need to add a bit of time for general admin. Maybe I pre-allocate that, or I'm going to log that myself. I'm just going to put an hour in there, and maybe we'll call that whatever, content generation. I'm generating interest through a webinar, and then perhaps save that. So you can allocate people. You can choose what goes in the timesheet as well. So there's a lot of capability. You could potentially have all the aspects I saw in the action pad and on the whiteboard, including chatter, making off checklist items, completing the actions. You could do that from your timesheet. If you're integrating Salesforce into Outlook Calendar, into Google Calendar, and you bring that integration, you can leverage that into Mission Control. So I don't have an example this week, but maybe last week I had a whole lot of meetings, and I could see I had a project item, and I could actually go in here and log time against other items, even though they're not project related. So categorize that where I need to. Built-in approvals. I've got an approval here from Carrie, where I'm the project manager on the project Ace Labs Roadshow. I'm also Carrie's role manager. So I've seen both the project and this level. If you'd like to or need to have different levels of automation, leverage Salesforce approvals. That's the joy of Mission Control, is it's, while it's a managed package, it's still reasonably open. Project we started with, our Ace Labs Roadshow, some other features maybe you didn't see. A lot of tabs here across the top. We won't go through all of them. Powerful features that do get used a lot is capturing risks on a project, and actually being able to assign those to people working within the project. You could actually go into the detail and even promote a risk if needed to an issue. And obviously being able to chatter at the risk level. Risk may be what you contain internally when you're working with projects, and then issues are what you're collaborating with your end client or partner. If you're using Salesforce communities, experience sites, you can also get Mission Control community licenses, so you allow client collaboration, and you can categorize those issues. So I should have mentioned with the risk log, depending on the values you put in for your impact ratings, and these gives you a risk score, so you could see which is highest, which ones you should focus on. Before we sign out, I'll show a couple of reports. We have a status report PDF, retrospective boards that came in our September release. Is how is our project going? Maybe at the end of each milestone, maybe at the end of the project, we want to do a retrospective meeting to see, look, what can we improve on? What worked well? Break it down, categorize that into areas so we can report on that, so we can improve on the way we're delivering to our end clients. sharing status reports, the project stakeholders and weekly status report, i.e. status report. I've run this ad hoc. You can schedule that to go out to the key stakeholders on the project on a weekly basis, obviously with your hero image, with the account contact details. Maybe you just send them a project summary, add a little custom field for notes that you want to share each week. How are we going from progress? Any other items? Down to what level of detail you want to share with them. Maybe the whole work breakdown structure, maybe a snapshot of the Gantt chart, issues and risks and other items. You can, you choose what you actually get to share on that report. The online status report, this came, I believe it was also in our September release. This is a force.com page that you configure once, and then you choose which clients you share it, which projects you share it to, and you can choose what goes on that report per project. Excuse me. So the work breakdown structure in a similar view to the Gantt chart view, read only, but looks pretty much exactly as we saw under the project, and things like Kanban time logs, maybe risks and issues. So you can share this to the end client, even though they don't have access to log in. That is a lot of talking for me. Sorry, I did miss a question. Can we configure page layouts? Absolutely. I won't dive into it, but certainly, let's say, for example, under the project detail, there's a lot of information under the details on a project, and you can certainly, you could go and edit the page, edit the object, and in the page layout, either show and hide fields, add your own custom fields as required. You may have noticed I've added some tabs on my layout, so I bring purchase orders up into a tab of their own. There's a whole other section, any change requests. I've also added a little Salesforce capability if I want, things I normally do at the opportunity stage. I also want to do that at the project level. And I've just brought these items up from the related list at the bottom. So there's a lot here. You can see our risks, any expenses. Key thing to remember with mission control, any metric you're capturing, you can measure, you can report on, whether it's in a Salesforce report, dashboard. We've got clients who push that into Power BI, Tableau, be able to slice and dice that information. So there's a wealth of information you can share. Really appreciate everyone's time. That's a lot of me talking. Not too many questions today, which is unusual. I thought there'd be harder ones coming in. And I'd invite you to go to App Exchange and get it now, as the button says. You can download Mission Control to a Salesforce sandbox and have a play around with it. Use that, create sample data from the console, from the control pad. All the information you need is available on the quick start guide to get you up and running. It takes about 30 minutes to get Mission Control up and running. That sample data, you'll be up and running in less than 40 minutes, 30 to 40. So user guide is there. I'll also click and show you our support site. You can see a list of all the features of Mission Control. It's growing all the time. You could even go to our live test drive account on App Exchange. So actually click into here and you can actually look at a test drive. Most of the functionality I've shown you available there if you don't have the ability or the need to actually download into your own org. Any questions you may have, if I go to the Mission Control support site, so aprika.com is the company, Mission Control /support. You'll see there's a lot of resources there. So we've got a lot of blog posts, a lot of ebooks. We have a lot of recorded webinars, including how project management, so managing product roadmaps is a great webinar, user guide, training videos, knowledge base, and that's under our support page as well. So the knowledge base, I use this all the time when I just need to remind myself of certain features. You can read the user guide online and download it, and you can raise a support ticket even if you're on a trial. So it's a good way to sort of try our support to see if we're responsive as we claim to be. If you see a smiling face down here, it is a real person. So that's James. He's our marketing director. He's kindly stepped into live chat while I'm on this session. Quite often you'll see me on there. One of the team will be available online majority of the time. If we're not, you can still ask a question and we'll definitely follow up for you. Appreciate everyone's time. So I know we covered a lot. Mission Control, it's native on Salesforce. Please feel free to take a test drive. Feel free to download a trial into your Salesforce org. And that's a bit of the information there. If you have any questions, you can email at inquiries@aprika.com, support@aprika.com for any support ticket questions if you don't want to use the website. And that's me. I've even got my email address there, Trevor Doornbos @aprika.com, and I'm on LinkedIn. Feel free to send a connection request. Thank you, everyone, for your time. Appreciate there is a lot of talking. You will get a link after the session with the recording, so if you need to go back over anything, and please feel free to reach out to me. Thank you for your time.